and he really hates this stuff. And he says it's messed with how whole generations of people have been thinking. And here we are still using it. But what I took away from it was that tools have certain affordances. And those affordances change the way, can impact the way that thinking happens, teaching happens, learning happens. So with these in mind, like I said, Google Maps happened. So then I was thinking, now suddenly there is scale. I can zoom into a building and zoom out to the Milky Way and then come back. And scale was never in the history of humankind were we able to change scale and perspective so quickly when looking at the world around us. I mean, static maps were good, but if I had to go from one scale to the other, I had to look at several maps. And I could know what Sydney looked like even without ever being there, the very real first-person feel. And then I learned about map projections. I know kind of late, but in my 30s is when I discovered what map projections actually were. And it shook my world and the rug under my feet, so to say. And I realized that everything that you know is just depends so much on where you're looking at from and how it has been projected into the world. So it kind of builds on my aha that I had about the affordances of the tool actually changing what we learn or do not learn from something. So quickly pass over. Then there was augmented reality, virtual reality. Now we have one more level of immersiveness. And how does this? Right now I know it's all games and it's all, let's figure out where this is going. Nothing really serious as such is happening with this, though there are some things and I'll come to that. For example, if you are in an immersive underwater world, face to face with a shark, how does that change your sense of what danger actually is? And if you go into that and then you come out into the world, do I carry the same sense of how I deal with danger? Will that change the way I make decisions about what is happening around me if I spend a lot of time in the virtual world? Well, it's out there, but then these are the kind of things that engage me. Then the last aspect of it was simulations. I know there's a lot of clunky pictures here, but a plus b whole squared equals a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. If you remember that from math, I always learned that as a formula. It was algebra. It made no sense to me until I saw it in this format. I mean, when I saw this, it was a huge aha moment for why algebra was the way it was, but it was too late. I was like in college, or I was if I had learned that in middle school, I think I would have been a very different person, at least with respect to math. Then there's a whole lot of math that can happen only because it's visual. Whole lot of math that happens to become easier to understand or easier to research, easier to create knowledge with, because it is visual, because it is spatial. And then there's the whole aspect of simulations, flight simulations. The first experience I had of it was when I was developing some instructional materials for the Delhi Metro, New Delhi Metro. So I went into an actual simulator and experienced firsthand what it means to run over something on the track. It was gut-wrenching. And like the whole thing actually stops forward and you're like, ah! So I said, if this was not spatial, then how would the experience be? There was no way you can create the same experience if it were not spatial and if it was not visual. So with all of these in mind, I was convinced it's relevant. I'm convinced it's relevant because generate new knowledge, understanding existing knowledge, how we share knowledge. I use share in a very open way. What I really mean is teaching, learning, research, all of that knowledge, mobilization, and how we work, basically, how we operate within certain domains. So the question I had when I came into my PhD was, among many other questions, was how does spatial thinking impact the creation, use, and sharing of knowledge? And from all this, I was already convinced that it has to vary across the disciplines. I mean, how you see it in math is not the same as how you see it in geography, is not the same as how you see it in, say, astronomy or chemistry or in engineering. So does it vary? How does it vary? So this project that I took up was sort of a literature review, sort of, it's ongoing. So the part of it that I've finished till now is the literature review. The most elegant definition that I have found for spatial thinking, among many others, is there's only 5 minutes left. Sorry, I'm going very slow, sorry about that. So it's a constructive amalgam tools of representation and process of reasoning. And the tools of representation that we have in 2008 were all the ones that we've seen before, GIS, Google, all of that. And these are the disciplinary perspectives that we have. I mentioned a lot of them in STEM, and the geography is the obvious one. And we've seen how it works in medicine and epidemiology already. But what about social sciences? What about history? Now Google Maps has kind of come into the world in any case in general. So now it affects everything that you do. Linguists are using it, language and literature people are using it, performance arts people are using it, and a lot of my literature review in this part has been to go over how each of this has been affecting each of these disciplines, and what is the pattern that emerges from that is what I want to cover here. So after I've done this for nearly like 7 months maybe now, reading through all of these different literatures, and right at the end, I stumbled upon a specialist meeting which happened in the University of California, Santa Barbara in 2013. Obviously, it did not come up in any academic search because it was the report of a meeting that happened, and it was only Google that helped me with that. And it was extremely validating to know that this meeting was a meeting of 42 specialists, and they were pretty much saying the exact same thing that I had come to sense over the last 15 years. And these are the issues that we have. The thorny issues are, there is visual thinking, there is spatial thinking. People are not entirely clear whether they are the same or different. There is a sense that spatial thinking is larger than visual thinking, but depending on your discipline, you would disagree. What do you use it for? Some people say navigation, reasoning, problem solving, visualization, interpretation. The social sciences and humanities will say it's more for interpretation, it's for conversations, it is for building a sense of who we are, space, identity, so on and so forth. The statistics, data, big problem, dimension and scale. The geographers are thinking at scale of the world. The doctors who are looking inside your body are thinking in another scale. The physics and chemistry people are looking at subatomic scales. The astronomers are looking at cosmic scales. So this whole spatial thing doesn't work in the same way for everybody. And the moment you add the angle of time to it, space-time, literally, then the whole equation changes again. And whatever tools that you have sometimes work with time, sometimes do not work with the temporal aspects. And this is the biggest one, is it domain specific? I mean, is it like problem solving or critical thinking or creativity? Is it something that is outside of every domain, or is it embedded into the domain and makes sense only from within there? The jury is out. They cannot seem to agree on whether it works one way or the other. So is it an integrated competency? Is it a collection of skills? Is it transferable? But then one strong idea that comes out is that the geographers have monopolized this whole conversation so far. So GIS cannot be the be-all and end-all of how we think about spatial thinking. It needs to go beyond that. But what, people are still arguing. The other big issue, coming back to my question of affordance, is technology drives what is happening. Someone comes up with VR, someone comes up with AR, a new kind of spatio-temporal database, and that starts determining what sort of research happens. It's a bit of cart before the horse, but that's the reality. So when you're talking about can spatial thinking be taught, the kids are coming in already with so many skills, whether they're well developed or not, and you have to deal with that, and the teachers don't really have a clue about what's happening. Okay, I'm going to skip over those. Whoops. So to kind of summarize, we have the main problems why we cannot have a cross-disciplinary unification of the idea of spatial thinking. Seems to be that a range of scales. The epistemology across the disciplines is very different. You want a very objective way of looking at things in the STEM and sciences, whereas in the social sciences it's different. Who owns the research agenda? People are fighting against the geographers for wanting to own the research agenda on this, but those guys have the biggest advantage because they've done the most work on this. And basic question, is there really a compelling value proposition to actually put spatial thinking as something unique that you have to learn if you're looking at it as a competency or as a skill? Okay. So, what next? I think one of the specialists at the meeting summarized it well, and they said, what we really need is a discipline-based ethnography of spatial thinking, meaning that we really have to dive deep into each discipline and see what spatial thinking looks like from within that discipline, and how spatial thinking competencies and tools, because the affordances, lend themselves to that, how they impact the generation of knowledge in that one X discipline. So if I were to build on this research going further, this is the route that I would have to take, dive deep into one discipline. This is like a nod to, I don't know if you're familiar with CERN, the guys that make the Large Hadron Collider and are trying to find a grand unified theory of the subatomic and the cosmic. And the slogan at CERN is "No gut, no glory." And I think I'm in pretty much the same kind of situation. That isn't going to be a unified theory, and there isn't going to be glory coming from there, but we'll have to see where that goes. Thank you.
So we'll just open up the floor for questions for 5 minutes.
Just curious, what kind of discipline would you think of going into, because you're in education, so.
Yeah, I would, my tendency would be towards the social sciences because they are, I think, less represented in this whole argument, in this whole things. Maybe sociology perhaps, because urban planning, economics, all of them, any of them, but then you also need to have a certain comfort level with the subject before you dive deep into it. So if I were to pick, it would be sociology. History is another big one, yeah.
You spoke about the augmented reality having applications beyond the games now. What are some interesting ones that you've come across?
Oh, the one, well, the most recent one which happened last week, I don't know if you're familiar with it. There's a group of rebel visual artists who wanted to protest the way curation happens at the Metropolitan Museum of Arts, MoMA. And so within the Jackson Pollock room, they've set up an AR environment where when you pointed your camera at a particular display over there, you would see overlaid on it the works of these artists. So it is a clear act of rebellion, and of course, not everybody can see it. You can see it only if you have that app on. And people were there, and they were like helping you get through with that, and they've given out that whole AR app for free, saying that if you want to use this for subversion anywhere else, go ahead. But yeah, this is again exactly what is the affordance of the tool is allowing you to do something. It's not that someone came and said, oh, this, I have to find a technology that will allow me to layer my thing on this. Because AR allows me to do this, the idea comes to my head that I can use it for subversion. So that's kind of one way of doing it. Then there are apps which allow you to leave public graffiti on the walls, around the city as you go around, for example. So if you are in this room, you could leave a little note saying anything from I was here to this presentation was so and so to whatever, and the next person who walked through the room would actually see that, and then it kind of changes how you interact with the environment. And if that whole thing is archived, then you have a whole different take on history of this room. And so yeah, we don't know where it goes. So I think something will happen for sure.
So we have time just for one more question. Anybody have any?
You were asking what's augmented reality, virtual reality?
No, to see the graffiti, you need it.
You need a phone.
Okay.
It's most of the AR augmented reality happens via just your phone, and virtual reality is also, while it can happen through very specialized equipment, you can get something called Google Cardboard for like literally a few dollars, or you can make your own. So it's a little piece of cardboard thingy. You put your phone into it and run an app, and trust me, when I first saw it, it's so clunky and stupid. You have a piece of cardboard in front of your face, but and I saw the Chateau de Versailles from inside that app. It was something else to turn my head and feel like I am seeing the gardens, and then walk forward and then enter the room, and then look up and see the ceiling, and it does change in some ways. I was feeling a bit like the first motion pictures. They saw a train coming past, and people were really scared because they thought the train was coming towards them because it was a whole new experience. Today we laugh at it. It was some grainy picture from wherever. But yeah. Yes.
Thank you very much. I have a question about the privacy and confidentiality in regard to the augmented reality. What you talk is all about positive things. I really appreciate that. But there might be some flip side as well. Probably we are
There'll be
looking
plenty of them. There'll be plenty of them. I'm sure we have not heard the end of what all could go wrong, and I have not focused on them so much because I think my aim was to talk about the spatial aspect of it, whether or not the spatiality affects the way we think. But you can't see it in isolation. You're absolutely right. There's privacy issues. There are questions of who owns those powers. There's question of who decides what features are available on AR. It's a mess. Yeah. Do we have a minute for one last question?
Okay, quick one.
I'm interested in extending the physical to the virtual in the example of the room. But this definitely will change the way we will experience research in the future. So I think the virtual is unlimited. It comes with abundance. And the physical is something that is limited. So when you said somebody will leave their mark and then you will come later on and you see what they left and you go to the history. Fast forward to the future after many years, like it will be very difficult to see what happened across time. Something will be missing because of the abundance.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. So what I can say at the end of that is with these, especially AR, VR, we don't know where they're headed. Even with maps, we don't know where they're headed. It can be utopia, it can be dystopia, it can be something in between, but something will happen for sure. We could discuss it. Yeah. Thank you so
That was lovely. I have a really quick question. Can I take your email and mail it to you? Because I think everybody's running between sessions. It just felt like a long and a little offshoot of a question. Yeah, I have a pen.
I'm not able to close this for some reason.
That's good.
How does this high-tech thing work? This is forward and back? Yeah. Okay,
and then you can point with this one.
Thank you. I'm sure I won't be able to aim.
Did you live in Delhi long? No, I never lived in Delhi. I lived in Bangalore and Hyderabad. But I'm from India. I lived in India all my life.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm actually going to mail you with
wanted to say thank you. It was really good.
Nice to
I'm actually, we should talk sometime.
Is that a way we can stay in touch?
That's actually the issue I'm dealing with. It's the time-space thing.
Okay.
It's how to map that. Because I'm mapping data. Constanza.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm close to the end of it.
Okay.
I have lots of ideas if you want to as well. Especially like,
So it's March 10th.
I don't know if you read any literature on perception.
Touched on it
There could be
because
some interesting stuff there, but also philosophy.
the psychologists, the philosophers, everybody has a view on this.
No, I know, that's why it's important to.
Okay.
Yeah, and go. How do I can I find you?
Oh, yeah, I'm on it. I don't know